Welcome to Sweethearts or Rivals. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Justin.
What's on our table today?
Grand Austria Hotel.
Grand Austria Hotel is a game that plays, let me double check, 2 to 4 players. It can take you about 90 minutes.
Yep.
They recommend you can play it with ages 12 and up.
There you go.
And it's published by Mayfair Games.
Mayfair Games. Well, there you go. Perfect.
All set.
All right, so let's start with the components of the game.
Well, the components of this game are substandard, I would have to say. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
There are some good things about the components. The board is a standard issue kind of cardboard,
Yep.
which is nice.
Yep.
So are these player boards here, and these punches are also a standard thickness.
Nice wooden dice.
The discs that you use as markers are nice. However, the cubes that you get for your resources, your strudel, your cake, your wine, and your coffee seem like they're seconds.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is a lot of them are broken and cracked.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are cubes, but some of them are only like half cubes.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
Yep.
Now, it does have wooden dice. You're either in one camp or the other. You love wooden dice or you hate wooden dice.
Wooden dice are awesome.
We like wooden dice,
Yep.
although I think they are cheaper to manufacture, quite possibly, than plastic dice. But being a child of the 70s, dice were wooden. So I like how dice feel when they're wooden when I roll them. So I mean, that could either be a positive or a negative.
We like it.
The thing that is the most disappointing about the quality of the components are the cards. It's basically not much thicker than a card that you would buy as a greeting card in a store. They're very thin and flimsy cards, which makes it very hard to shuffle. And I also worry about the more that we play it, the softer they'll get, the more wear and tear they'll get. So as you're using them, it will be easier to rip them just by shuffling them out, passing them out.
If this is a game that you're going to enjoy and play a lot, you'll probably want to sleeve the cards
for sure.
Yeah, the cards are flimsy.
Yeah. Now, as far as the art goes, the art's great. It's that kind of funny little cartoonish style art.
Yep.
And how everything is composed graphically everywhere, it's really nice. Mm-hmm. Like here where you have to choose what kind of actions you have under each number for your die. It's an actual cute little hotel.
Yeah.
Like when you walk in the greeting area or whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really nice, the artwork.
Yeah.
But just the quality of the components are disappointing.
Yep. The interesting thing with the array of guests in the artwork is there are characters from other games that show up in the artwork as guests. Yes. Which is kind of neat.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the graphic part, which is, I would give that a thumb. Yeah, it's just...
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just needed better quality cards.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think what might influence the disappointment that we have in the quality of the components is the fact how expensive the game was.
Exactly.
It was very expensive for
the quality that we received.
Yeah, which is a bummer.
And what was it, just so that people know, in Canada we paid $75 for it.
Out there, yeah.
And to receive cubes that feel like they were seconds and cards that are really of very poor quality.
So we're going to have to pay more money to sleeve?
Right. Yeah. Having to pay $75 for a game.
Yeah.
It's a little expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and
that's all we have to say about that. So what do you think about the strategy, which is the strategy, tactics, and luck?
Okay. So it's a very unique blend. The first thing you have to look at is you have to look at this Emperor track and the 3 Emperor goals and the 3 politics cards, which are again just goals, and then you have to think to yourself, how am I going to achieve those in the long run? So there's this overarching strategy there. The other thing is the whole rolling the dice, place them out, and then taking 2 dice actions per turn is very, very, very tactical. Because
extremely tactical.
because you have no idea what's going to be. It's like, okay, next turn I'm going to need a strudel and I'm going to need a coffee, so I'm going to have to take a 1 and a 2. No problem. And
Guess
then
what? There's no 1s, there's no 2s, there's only 1 6, which is like the free action one.
So it's very tactical, and then there's a lot of really great player passive-aggressive interaction with looking at what the other person needs and making sure on your turn you take that away from them, which you probably saw them run through. Very good. So lots of long-term strategy, lots of short-term tactics. Yeah, I need to do that, but what's the best thing I can do right now? I don't need to hire anyone, but there are 4 5s that were just rolled, so right now is the best time to get that cheap person hired.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Then you have the randomness of the setup in your bonuses for the Emperor track, your bonus political cards, and then the really big thing, which is the draft at the beginning of the game. That is a huge part of this game.
Well, they do recommend that that's the expert version to draft, don't
Yes.
they?
Yeah.
There's a starting one where you can actually start, first player 1 gets a certain set of cards and player 2 gets a certain set of cards.
Yeah.
And then there's also just, let's just deal out and we play with what we get.
Yes. Now I think the first time we played, we skipped the intro and we just passed out a bunch of cards and then just played with what we got. And I got this incredible synergy combo of like 3 cards that gave me these bonuses. It was like, you get to prepare a room whenever you do this. Whenever you take that die, you get points, and all red rooms or one of the color rooms were free. And I had them out right away, and then for the rest of the game, and it was just overpowered.
Yours was, because especially when the very first game and I'm just learning and I get this motley crew of people that don't even know each other's names. That's what it seemed like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work out for me that game. But
I find that variant of just passing out the cards and everyone just gets what you get, that's too random. I don't like that at all. I don't think I'd ever play that way. The intro beginner's game kind of variant where everyone gets that one set, they're all well balanced. So that works really well. Definitely go with that the first time you play.
For sure. I recommend that for sure.
But the game does get very interesting when you draft and you're looking for those combos and trying to make sure that people don't get those combos. That's my preferred way to play.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of the randomness comes from the setup, a little bit with the draft, and then because all the actions are dictated by the roll of the dice, there's that kind of random / tactical element that goes here, which I enjoy that quite a bit. It's very cool.
And another thing too about the setup, the board comes with like a standard side and then also a random side.
Yeah.
So you can start with the standard and everyone has the same one.
Yep.
And then as you get more familiar with the game or you need more challenge with the game, you flip your board over, which is another nice.
And yeah, the backs of the 4 player boards are different setups of the different groups of rooms. So that would be
4 are different from each other?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that would be, so I would be playing with a completely separate one than you, and it would be very challenging. That would be interesting.
You could almost draft your boards if you're playing a 2-player.
You could. The other element of randomness that comes throughout the game is the guests that are available, because at no point do the guests just all shuffle off.
No.
They only shift around if somebody buys them, which can be a bummer.
And you can use it tactically too.
Yeah.
It's like, I know he really wants that color of room. Well, I'm just going to not buy anyone or take anyone this round.
Yep.
And he'll be still left up there having to pay $3 if he wants it.
Yeah.
Make him pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the blend of the randomness, the tactics, and the strategy coming all together makes this a very unique game that seems fairly easy to play. Because on your turn, you don't do that much. But you have lots of options of what you could do. And doing one thing can trigger this to happen, which could trigger that to happen, which could trigger that to happen. So it seems like there's not a lot to learn, but how everything connects together can make it a beast to master. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the strategery. What about the complexity?
Well, just what you were saying at the last part is exactly what I wanted to mention in the complexity.
Yeah.
Because when I watched run-throughs or reviews of Grand Austria Hotel, when you're just looking at the surface of the game, it looks like a resource management tile laying puzzle with some randomness thrown in.
Yeah.
But I wasn't taking into consideration all the points you get from this, and they're random each time. And then this Emperor track, well, that's a beast of its own self to master, really.
Yeah.
Because here on round 3, wherever you are on this track, you're going to go back 3 points. Or 3 steps.
Yeah.
In round 5, it's 5. In round 7, it's 7. And if you end up way down here, you're going to suffer a penalty each of those times. So, I mean...
And they are harsh.
I didn't even imagine when I watched the playthroughs and the run-throughs and the reviews how much this can influence your game.
Yeah.
But you've really got to keep an eye on it. So that, trying to manage that can take a lot of the focus away from getting your resources to put into your guests so that you can actually get your guests in the room. Oh, look at that, and I need to prepare some more rooms. So you only get 2 dice each time to do your actions. So there's a lot to manage. And you can do the combos, I mean, because each one of these people is going to give you some free actions. So it's to grab the right people that are going to give you the right free actions to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to manage the only certain colors are going to go in certain color rooms. What if I don't have those color rooms prepared? I've got a bunch of blue rooms prepared and these guys are the ones that are out.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's way more complicated than I even suspected that it was.
Yes. It seems like all you're doing in your round is, oh, I'm going to take a guy, and I'm going to take a dice and take that action, haha. And it's just, there's no way you can get what you want done from this alone.
No.
Which means you have to manage all of the bonuses.
Right. And there's a lot of interconnectivity in the management.
Yep.
Because I didn't even touch on these guys that give you, some of them give you stuff each round. Some of them are infinity and it's just automatic. Some of them are one time. Some of them are endgame scoring.
Yeah.
So there's all these guys that you have to manage too.
Yep.
And I just realized now, thinking about it, I probably sounded a little ranty when I was talking about the complexity. But it's just, on the surface, it looks like a different game, I think, than what it actually is. It's a lot heavier than how cute it looks.
Yeah. Yep. Right on.
So how did you find the rulebook?
The rulebook is not bad at all. The only problem with the rulebook that I found was whenever you have certain guests, or especially the hirees,
Well,
they're all in German.
and also, now I know I haven't had my eyes tested in a long time. I am getting up there in age. But that is hard to read.
Yeah, it's very, it's cursive.
And it's very small.
And it's very small.
Yeah.
And it's in German.
Right.
So to actually figure out what this character is so I can look up their special ability, because there's a lot of special abilities that break a lot of the rules, which can lead to a little bit of, I don't know, I'm not sure how these two cards interact. I need to go find that out. Yeah. So you got to look them up quite often. And when you're looking them up, that can be difficult. So that was a pain. Once you get used to it, it's not that bad. It's not, you can never find the card, it can take some time.
Yeah. And there's a lot of iconography on the cards. A ton of iconography. Yeah. Like, some of them are really easy. Like, of course, this guy's going to give you 1 wine, 1 red resource, and and he's also going to give you $3. Very easy.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at this guy. Well, I guess it's not as hard as it looks from far away. Once you actually get to see it in focus, you're going to get to prepare a room for free, but it can't be any higher than level 2. But
True.
Say, for example, I had this guy. Then you probably can't see. But that's an icon that doesn't come up hardly at all. So, yeah, we've got to look him up each time that we play the game.
Yeah. And even looking him up in the rulebook, the first time we found this guy, I had to FAQ him. Because even in the rulebook, it's not particularly clear exactly how his
Yeah.
special power works.
So some of the iconography I find is a little fiddly, if
Yep.
iconography can be fiddly.
Yep.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't taught this to anyone yet just because we wanted to understand it really well.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, we've played it almost 10 times now.
Yep.
And I finally feel like I'm getting a handle on it.
Yeah. I only beat you by like 1 point last game.
That's a spoiler.
Yep. Spoiler.
So moving on to playability.
Playability. So first of all is mechanics versus theme, which is very interesting. I imagine that if you were running a hotel and you had to do all these different kinds of actions to make your hotel run nice and smooth, that some of them, like opportunities, would come up that would make certain things easier and others challenging. So that makes sense. That's kind of neat.
Well, with the theme, if I was running a one-man hotel and I had to manage everything like I have to manage everything here, yeah, I think the theme is very fitting.
Yep.
But let's face it, if I was running a hotel, I would have someone that does each one of those things.
There you go.
And someone works in the cafe too.
Yep.
I'm not the only person running the whole joint.
The mechanism of the people you can hire and what they do is thematic, which is kind of nice. It makes sense that that person would give you that bonus and for those specific actions. The different kinds of guests represent certain kinds of guests, which is why they like certain kinds of rooms. Even though they probably wouldn't be color-coded in real life.
They probably wouldn't be color-coded.
No.
No.
But it makes sense. And then you have the people that are green who are from out of town and they don't care, they just want a room.
Right.
So they're the wild cards. So that makes sense. The only thing I find kind of weird thematically is this Emperor track. Like, if I'm running a hotel, I need, like, maybe it's an Austrian thing because it's Grand Austria Hotel.
I see it as like the 5-star rating. You know what I mean?
In the game, it's all about have you displeased the Emperor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have an emperor in Canada, so I don't know.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Especially considering how important that track is. Because if you displease the Emperor, you get, like ruined
really big
horribly.
Penalties, yes.
Yeah. So that's
yeah, what was this when you lose all your goods in your kitchen and from your people?
Yep.
Crazy. That's a harsh penalty.
Yeah. So, a very interesting kind of themed mechanisms. It's unique. It makes sense, in a sort of way, which is kind of cool. Even little things like if you've got a whole bunch of stuff in your kitchen and you need to get it out to your people, you need to hire some waiters. So it's going to cost you $1. Yeah. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of slave labor though. $1.
It could be $100. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
To prepare a room doesn't cost $1.
You're right. It's probably hundreds of dollars.
Hundreds of dollars.
Makes
that works.
more sense.
We'll go with that. So we don't know how it scales for the number of people because we've only played it a 2-player game. But I do know that as you add more players, there's going to be more dice, which is good.
And the turn order is different.
Yep.
Because in a 2-player, it's I'm player number 1. I get the first turn, you get the next 2 turns, and then I get the last turn.
Yeah.
So in a 4-player, I know it's player number 1 is still. They take the first turn.
You'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to know that going in that there's going to be downtime.
Yeah.
In this game, how they have the turn order structured.
Yep.
I think I heard someone refer to it as the snake turn order mechanism.
Yeah, interesting. The game length is pretty good. It's about an hour and a half. The first couple of games are a little bit longer. I do imagine that if there were more players, you're gonna have to increase that a great amount.
A great deal.
Especially if you're first starting out.
Yeah, I would have to say even our 2-player games are still coming in at the 90-minute mark. I'll know better once I edit, but it definitely was longer than an hour.
Yeah. And then as for the replayability, there's quite a few of the different Emperor tiles and quite a few of the different political cards. So that's a lot of different end game scoring strategy to go through. The other thing too is there is a really big, well not huge, but it's a fairly significant stack.
You have to remember how thin the cards are though. It's a really big stack of cards.
And these are all the hirees.
And these are all the different guests. Justin has a pile over there and then there's these as well.
Yeah. So lots of different guests, hires. They all have special powers, different scores. So every game is going to be quite different.
Yes. Now there's 4 of each of these and 4 of each of those.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting, it would be a really easy game to expand because
Yeah.
you could put 4 more and 4 more, and that would give
Yeah.
you a lot more replayability.
Here's a pack of new guests. Here's a pack of new hirees with special powers.
Yeah.
Very easy to expand the game without having to add
true.
a lot of new mechanisms, which is good. I don't think you'd want to add a lot of new mechanisms to this game.
No, I think the game is big enough almost as it is.
Mechanism heavy.
At this point, yeah.
Right on. All right, so does it have the awesomeness or does this have the cuteness?
That's a hard question for me to answer because my expectation of this game's awesomeness was very high.
Mm-hmm.
And because I struggled with it so much in the beginning, it kind of left a sadness
Gotcha.
on my awesomeness scale. So I would have to say at this point, it's very cute. So I will give it an equal awesomeness versus cuteness.
There you go.
Yeah.
Equal awesome to cuteness ratio.
Yeah. But my expectation of awesomeness was not manifested the first time I played this game.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more you play and the more you get used to how the game works, kind of building on that skill.
The better it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was the last game that we played, there was a lot of things at the early game that didn't work out the way I wanted. And yet I still managed to pull off some really good moves near the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing with the game is for you to get good at the game, you have to be very, very adaptable to what is happening because things change every round.
And you can't really plan out too much what you want to do because the dice dictate your actions.
Yeah.
And as we all know, sometimes dice are not your friends.
Now there is a very unique mechanism for when the dice have completely messed you over, and you can pass, and you take a die out, and then you roll the remaining, and then you get to go again. So there's almost like a little bit of a push your luck element to it, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think the game would suffer a lot if that didn't happen. That and the fact that the 6s are wild.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There's a lot of built-in mitigation, which I think is very important for this game to be successful.
Yeah. And I have to say, too, something about that because it took me a very long time to get a handle on the game. And sometimes with games like that, you know, if you're playing 6 games and you really still haven't felt like you've improved yet, sometimes I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah.
But this one, I was interested enough in to persevere. And you have to make up your mind if you want to persevere at it. Because for me, I'm just talking from my point of view, it was a very difficult game to not learn the mechanisms, but learn how everything interacted with each other.
Yeah. There's a lot of interactivity to learn.
I was actually very nervous to play it on camera because there's been times that Justin has not only lapped me once, but twice. So I was very happy with my score that he only beat me by 1 point.
Yeah. And I think part of that and that last game really kind of exemplified that was even though it seems like it could be kind of a solitaire-ish game, it really isn't.
It can't be because you have to keep an eye on what your opponent needs to do to get ahead of you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of very kind of subtle passive-aggressive ways of messing with the other players. And you need to take those opportunities, which is what you did, and it worked quite well.
I did that on a playthrough, but sometimes with a game like this that's really high in strategy and tactics, I get swept away in my strategy, and I get so head down, focused on my own thing, that all I can see is my end game goal.
Yeah.
And then I'm not playing tactically, and I'm not playing to block you. I'm just playing to get at that strategy that I planned way at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which this is a game that you can't do that with.
Not at all.
No.
There's too much going on and changing that you need to adapt to.
Yeah.
Yep. The one thing that I was surprised by with the game that I actually find really awesome is the high cards. And everything we saw before we picked up the game is like, yeah, you can hire stuff for special abilities. Hurrah. But because they're drafted and the special powers can be, especially if you synergize them, they can be very powerful.
They can be.
And they can drive a lot of what you're able to do over the course of the game. That I actually find quite awesome.
You do, and that's a strength of yours.
Yeah.
So and that's obviously, I've talked about this before, it's not a strength of mine. So when you're playing with someone that's really smart at that part of the game, choosing all those synergies, and then that's kind of like my weakness, it can put you at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Right on. What kind of group would this be an excellent game for?
Well, your group would have to be enjoying heavy games, because
Yep.
this game is way heavier than it looks. Not only in weight, but in gameplay as well.
Yes. To enjoy this game, you need to have a group of players that are very comfortable with a lot of complex interconnectivity and a lot of shifting focus. Again, you have to be constantly adapting to what is happening. And if that is kind of what your group is for, and you want a game that, you know, seems easy to learn how to play at first and then takes a while to kind of master a lot of it, it's a game for you. Yeah.
It's true.
Here's a question.
Yes.
Are we going to trade it or keep it?
That's a hard question for me to answer.
It's funny.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point of the plays that I've played, and I'm finally feeling now that I can just hold my own.
Yep.
I've won one time.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought I was going to win today.
So close.
So close. I've won one time.
Almost had a tie there.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I mean, and it doesn't make it any easier that right now there is someone on the Board Game Geek that wants this game for one of our Grail games.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if it would be a 1-for-1 trade or what, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm done with it yet or if I want to keep trying some more.
Well, it's not a game that blows my socks off that I'm like, oh, I've got to play Grand Austria Hotel. But when I play it, I do enjoy the puzzle of the game. So if we kept it, I would enjoy it, and that would be cool. Especially if you continue to get better and continue to enjoy taking me out. Yep, absolutely.
Well, it wouldn't be any fun for you if I never got any better at it, because you'd just always be 150 points ahead all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would be frustrated throughout the whole game, and that's not fun.
And it's never fun to be frustrated through the whole game.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you were enjoying it and getting better and enjoying the fact that you're getting better and I would be challenged, yeah.
Well, I definitely enjoyed the playthrough that we just recorded. That was probably the most enjoyable time I've had at this game the whole time I've played it.
Nice.
So.
Cool. So, we are undecided.
We're undecided.
But we shall update you in a future podcast?
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. Do we finish the game as Sweethearts or Rivals? We finish it as or Rivals?
Rivals, of course. Rivals.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's too much at stake to not trounce the other person when you get the opportunity.
You invest too many of your precious brain cells in this game that you cannot come out as Sweethearts. It's Rivals all the way.
Maybe that's one of the reasons we should keep it. This will stave off old age foggy brainness.
Foggy brainness?
Yeah. This is what we need to
Foggy brainitis?
to pump up our brains and keep them in good shape. There you go. We might keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So
I don't know, that Grail game.
Yeah, I know. It is a Grail game.
Yeah.
We'll see. So, that is Grand Austria Hotel.
That it is. Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you in the next video.
Haters. Right on.
So, how do you feel about the strategery, which is the stratics, tactics, and luck? Did I say stratics?
I thought you said strategy and tactics.
Let's just start that one over.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but if that guy who wants this game for Helvetia's out there and you'd be interested in a used copy.
That's a ringy.
Typey.
There you go.
I mean, it's like this now, right? Ringy dingy. Hey, Ferris.
Ringy dingy.